Good evening, good evening. How are you, Duke? You good?
But yeah, tired.
Here, I want to tell you something. I found myself a nice little pub earlier this afternoon with me missus.
Not bad, is it?
It's a nice pub. I got to say, I drove past the Lewisham Tavern. I'll tell you what. Let me find it. Hang on. Where is it? That's the address, ladies and gentlemen. If you're ever passing by the Lewisham Tavern, that's Duke's new pub, and it's as Duke says, it is a proper boozer. It
Old
doesn't
school
serve
boozer,
food. It's if you want food, so long as it's crisps, pork scratchings, and nuts, you're in luck. If you're expecting sort of like burgers, pizzas, and all the rest of it,
Well,
sorry,
listen,
it's not
they
that
can
sort
get
of
a
pub.
Nando's. They can
Yeah,
get a Nando's up the road on a. They can have it Uber Eats to the pub if they really wanted to. I don't mind.
you got a kebab shop opposite as well, haven't you?
I've got 2 kebab shops opposite, and then on a normal week, obviously tomorrow doesn't start a normal week because it's bank holiday weekend.
Yep.
I've got a cafe directly opposite, so breakfast and whatnots over there. So yeah, it's a long hard slog at the minute. As I said to you the other day, Rob, like I'm travelling half hour to and fro every morning and every evening. Oh, God, I can't look, mate. I'm not even at home and I'm still getting interrupted. Look, I can't win. Well,
It's just that we've got Cyber in the live chat. Hope you're well, mate. Larry's in there. I'll tell you what, he's probably firing up the barbecue as we speak, isn't he?
I was about to say my favourite barbecue man.
That's it.
It
Absolutely.
makes me so hungry when I get tagged in things on Twitter, and then my phone just goes off the chain.
I'll be looking on Twitter when we're done. I have the phone on silent, Larry. So if you're sending tweets during the stream, then I'm not gonna get it. But I'll have a look afterwards. I'm quite sure I'll see something to behold. Sharky, hope you're well, mate. And also Neil from Down Under. It's from South Australia at 6:02 in the morning.
Fair play to him.
What can you
do? Ruddy play.
But no, I've got to say it's a nice little pub you got there, mate. And I know you got some plans for it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, but that isn't the reason we've hit start broadcast, is it? We're going to talk about the goings on at Selhurst Park yesterday, Duke. We got the win, and at one point it looked like we were sort of going to get it at a canter, but we don't do it easy, do we? Ended up we won it, but it was the old goal in 5 in the end.
Where to start, Rob? Is all I've got right now.
Gaz, I hope you're well, mate.
How you doing, Gaz? Over there, one of them chats. I didn't actually say hello to everyone. I just kind of nodded. No, listen, I've got no words, Rob, for last night. Like, I kind of, Sharky says it
difficult
spot on there.
Difficult.
I think my arsehole fell out about 4 or 5 times. I ain't gonna lie to you. Like, listen, first half, and we'll cover it a little bit more in depth. But first half, we played like the West Ham I've been used to, apart from the last 7 or 8 games. West Ham I've been used to for the last 18 months. It felt like there was an air of reckless abandon, that we were just going to go and attack and do what we do. And then the second half they walked out, and I felt like it was Moyes' ball all over again. And by that I mean get yourself a decent lead and then just hold on to that decent lead rather than continue to do what we were doing that got us to a 3-0 lead. And as I say, difficult 7 minutes to watch. 82 minutes they go and bag. I know again I don't want to jump ahead of what we're doing, but yeah, I was at a point. Obviously, I sat here. I sat here at the pub, not here at London Stadium, which looks like I'm at. If I do this, I kind of a bit weird. But I sat in the pub at the end of the bar, Rob. I showed you where my seat was earlier, and it's now mine. It's mine. And the second they scored, the clock was ticking down. Like I think it was 89 minutes and 52, 53, 54. It got to 60 or 90 minutes, and I literally screamed, "That's it, blow the fucking whistle," because
Yeah.
I didn't want to give them, um, any kind of injury time because they were here and we were here.
Yeah.
Like it was ridiculous. They were absolutely buzzing, and yeah, Steve, I was a mess, mate. I just did your son make it? By the way, did your son get to the game? Um, it was a very strange and situation that we were flying first half, as I say, reckless abandon, and we threw that away to go back to the Moyes sort of style of football that okay, you're 3-0 up, still on that 3-0 lead, and we gave up possession to Palace, and as Sharky says there, they worked hard.
I
They
thought they
came out
started
second half.
the first 10 minutes of the match. I actually thought they'd come out of the traps really quickly. I mean, they hit the post after a minute, didn't they?
Yeah. It
I
was
thought the
just
first 10, 12 minutes or so, up to the point that you remember when Guaita he made like that triple save. Up to that
yeah.
point, it was pretty much all Palace, but it was at that point that the momentum started to shift a little bit in our favour. But I've got to say, I thought that Palace. It was one of those where I think if I was a Palace fan, I'd have probably felt quite upset that despite that performance, we'd come off being a home game for them. But as I say, sometimes you are the statue, sometimes you are the pigeon. That's just the way it
Yeah,
goes.
first half we were the statue.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It was painful.
Richard, hope well, mate.
But it was,
And I agree with that comment from Gaza because certainly the momentum was with them in that last 7, 8, 9 minute period of the match. There's no doubt about it.
I reckon if they'd had another 10 or 15 minutes, they would have bloody won it, Rob. Let alone scored again. If they'd had, I'll tell you what, if they'd had another 5 minutes onto that four that they'd already got, if they'd had another 5 minutes, another 9 minutes, they would have definitely bagged the equaliser. I have no doubt in that. Towels were up. They were absolutely flying. We were pissing into the wind at that point. And then another 10 minutes on top of that, again, they would have been rocking. And I have no doubt that the winner would have been found for them from somewhere.
I agree with that comment from Steve. I think that was the difference between the teams. Yeah. We were more effective with the chances that we created. I mean, like you say, they hit the woodwork twice. They had a couple of saves that they forced from Fabianski. They had the chance right at the death from Mateta where he got the overhead kick in. And as it sort of goes moving towards goal, I'm like, no! And
God!
Half the post, and I was like, oh Christ! And exactly as Larry says, it gave me a bit of the old wobbles.
But I would have stood up and took my hat off to him. I would have applauded what was an absolutely tremendous goal if that had gone in.
It was a fantastic attempt.
It was when you consider that he could have quite easily tried to bring that down, or he threw his all into that, thinking, you know what, this could be it here.
I think he knew he didn't have time to bring it down. I don't think he'd have had the time, the space, the opportunity to do anything other than what he did, in all fairness. And it was just the execution wasn't quite on the money, but a couple of inches the other way, and it's 3-3, and we've turned 3 points into 1. Scott, hope you're well, mate. But that was the team. That was the team there that was put out by David Moyes at the outset. I mean, what did you make of it to begin with?
I was a little bit disappointed not to see Vlasic out there. I'll be honest. That for me would have been my only gripe if we hadn't won. The fact that we won, the fact that Manu took a penalty worthy of some of the even Mark Noble, it was a good pen. listen, Steve said it a minute ago. Wonder goal by Lanzini. That he justified his inclusion, so therefore I can't have the hump that Vlasic didn't start. Who's going to replace Bowen? Bowen's one of the best. Bowen's one of the best wide outfield players in the Premier League at the moment. And his form is deserving of a call up to the England squad. But as I say, he's one of, if not the best wide player in the Premier League at this moment. His form is exceptional. And who do you drop? Ben Rama? Ben Rama hasn't, I think after being dropped, I think he's earned his justification, or he's earned his justification for starting. Yep. The goal against Southampton. Is he the finished article? No. Is he? Is Bowen the finished article? No, not quite. He's getting there, but Ben Rama has obviously still got a way to go. So I'm thinking if we can work a little bit more with Ben Rama, we'll get somewhere.
Yeah, I mean the sad part about it, though, of course, he's off to the African Cup of Nations now, so we're going to lose him for. I don't know. It depends on how far Algeria get in the tournament, and don't forget they're actually the defending champions of that particular tournament. So it's not a stretch to say that they could go fairly deep.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. The fact that Vlasic has come.
Have I lost you?
Into form. No, I'm here.
That's all right.
The fact that Vlasic has come into form doesn't fill me with the trepidation of losing Ben Rama to the AFCON. It would have done if Vlasic had continued to struggle a little bit. So the fact that he's come into a little bit of form and he's playing some good football, kind of gives me a little bit more confidence that we can lose Ben Rama and still have good coverage.
Yeah. Yep, and I'll agree with the comments from Gaza there. All rivalry aside, to be 3-0 down in a home game and to keep up that level of support, vociferousness, and all the rest of it, they deserve an awful lot of credit. And I think that they were a big part of why their team carried on playing to a high standard, in my opinion. But they just came short. Is it Vince Lombardi? We didn't lose, we just ran out of time, and I think that's probably where the Palace fans could probably be thinking that they're at the minute. That had exactly as you said, had there been a few more minutes. I'll wait for Duke to come back. I'll just hang on a sec, just by pressing a button. Anyway, so that was the starting lineup. I mean, yeah, it's probably as strong as you could expect it to be. Just having a look at the chat here, Gaza says Benny needs to start putting in more crosses like that. Is he Di Frantonio? Yeah, it was a wicked cross into the box, and Antonio, good movement, good anticipation. All he needed to get was studs onto the ball as it was swinging in, and it's 1-0. Just to the no Cheku Kiyate, no James Tompkins, so unfortunately they didn't get to play against obviously the team that they used to play their trade for, but it was fairly close to the team that I predicted. I did say that I thought that Zaha would come back in, but again, I don't think it's been confirmed, but it's inferred that he was a COVID diagnosis. But that was that was a pretty strong lineup, especially look at that front three. That was pretty tasty, I thought.
I mean, I think putting Edouard out on the left, it's for me, it's a bit like what Chelsea were doing with Timo Werner. He's a goal scorer. He's a striker. He's an out-and-out goal scorer. Stick him up front. Now I know you can't put Benteke out there. I get that. Sorry, buddy. You're all right. Yeah, you're all right. I get you need to put Benteke in there because he's a big old lump. And if let's be fair, Dawson and Diop are quite good in the air.
Yeah.
You can put in a big lump like Benteke. I get that you're going to have to do a shuffle, but if you don't want to, if you don't want to be able to stick around with, you want to score goals, and you've got to put Edouard up there. He started well. He scored some good goals. He's been a nuisance for himself in the games that I've seen. You know, watching match today, and you know, there are other you know, highlight shows available if you want to watch them. But watching match of the day, you know, he's put himself about a bit, and I enjoy. You know, I'm gutted we didn't get him. To be fair. But yeah, to put him out on the left, I think shows a little bit of a disrespect to him personally. You know, looking at that side, I mean, I look at their midfield, Rob, the three in the middle there, and the fact that they let Max Meyer go back to Germany. And then
Yeah, you're a bit of a fan of his, aren't you?
I'm a huge fan of Max Meyer. The fact that they let him go back to Germany, whilst you know insisting that Will Hughes is a better player. No disrespect to Will Hughes, but he's certainly not a Maximilian Meyer. You know, there was a lot of good. I mean, Max Meyer was you know, came out of the same side. You know, I think there's like three or four attacking midfielders. Draxler, you know, they all came out of the academy. So just it hurts me a little bit that you know a quality player like him, he's kind of Jeff Schlupp and Will Hughes are sitting there and they've you know pissed him back off to his native country. You know.
Yeah, just on that comment from Scott there. Yeah, Tyrick Mitchell. When I did my thing with Titch on Hammers Fans United, where you had to make up a 20-man squad of players and one player from each team in the Premier League, and I actually put Tyrick Mitchell as my starting left back. So yeah, he's a good player, very underrated, I think.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying about Edouard, but the thing is, I guess if you're playing Benteke, then he's going to be the number 9, isn't he? He's going to be the number 9. So because I don't think he's a sort of centre forward that could play wide left or wide right.
No,
So
he's not, and that's the irritating part. You know, if you're the same Edouard, you're going to have the ump, mate. You're going to have the right ump.
yeah, fair enough. John, hope you're well, mate. Okay, so let's move on. So that was Hams. I mean, you look at their substitutes bench; they couldn't play. They couldn't play a full bench, so that kind of tells its own story. They had, as I say, no Zaha, no Kouyaté. Who else was missing? There was another player that they had missing. I can't remember who it was. Anyway, doesn't matter. But a few players that they had missing. But yeah, I thought they started really well. As I say, I think that the 3-0 lead, was it fortuitous? In some respects, it probably was. I think that or maybe not fortuitous that we'd scored 3, but I think it was probably a little bit of good fortune that we hadn't at least conceded one for the chances that they had. So to go in with a clean sheet was quite pleasing. But as I say, and I understand that it's since been confirmed that the reason that Johnson was pulled off at halftime was there was no injury involved, thankfully, because that was a bit of a concern. That it was purely a tactical move that David Moyes looked and said, well, we're 3-0 up at halftime. He's picked a yellow card. I don't want him to get a yellow card in a game that we're 3-0 up. So I'm going to swap it, which I completely get. The only thing is, I was like, oh, anyone but him. Couldn't you have put someone else in the left back? Anyone, change system, whatever. What were your thoughts when you saw Matt there?
I wanted to cry, Rob. I don't understand why we're persevering.
Yeah, you and me both.
Man. I don't get it. You know, you look at our bench there, and there's him and Yama. You know, it's not that Masuaku's lazy. It's just he's useless.
Gallagher, that was it. Yeah, sorry. I knew there was someone else that was missing. They just reminded me.
Yeah, it's not that he's lazy. He's useless. Whereas it's the other way for Yarmolenko. He's not useless. He's just lazy. You know, he doesn't turn it on. It doesn't do it for us. So it winds me up. But yeah, grand scheme of things, mate. Look, we avoided what could have been the worst, the worst situation possible. I'll tell you now. Can you imagine? Like, there's a reason we do these 24 hours after the game, isn't there? Gives us a chance to sit down, reflect, and don't do it angry, and don't do it pissed off. And I'm telling you now, if we'd drawn that game yesterday, if they had got a third, in those last 4 minutes, I'm telling you now, this would be a completely different story. Where you gone? He's left me. You can't do it these days, guys. Sorry. We, yeah, Gazzy, you're right. You should have gone for goal number 4. But we came out and we set up to defend in the second half. We weren't interested in going out and looking for a goal. We just came out and played, as I say, played Moyes ball. Moyes ball. He was just too out. He's happy to defend when we're X amount of goals in front. And we kind of don't do ourselves any favours because we can't. Masuaku comes on, we can't defend. There's no point. There's no point at all. Obviously, Rob's disappeared, and I have absolutely no access to any of the stuff that you have prepped. So this is always good. Let's see if we can send me. He hasn't sent me a message. And he says, "See you, Steve. Steve, thank you very much, sir. We'll see you soon." You guys in the chat, tell me what you thought when you saw Masuaku coming on. As I say, I was at a point where I wanted to cry. I was at a point where, Andy says taking Lanzini off his range. What are you up to, Rob? What are you playing at, mate? No, I can't hear you. Can anyone else hear Rob?
There we go. I'm back. It's like.
Oh, now you've frozen on me.
Am I back?
I know, I can hear you.
Oh God! Do you know what?
I don't know if that's your internet or my internet, Rob.
I think I think it's my.
And he's gone again. Robert. Oh, he's kind of some people. Yeah, Andy, what do you reckon he took him off? What's your thoughts on the matter there? Everyone's agreeing that taking Lanzini off was a silly mistake, and Andy says that he's worried when Mass comes on, and Sharky says that he knew we'd struggle. So it's a situation. Gacy, Scott says sort it out. So what's going on? Gacy out, hashtag. Oh, he's out. There you go, Scott. I hope you're happy with that one. I've not seen this. I don't think that was the internet, Larry. That was the music in the background. That was the fact that all you could hear was Chesington World of Adventures. Yeah, Gacy's using free internet.
If only. No, I'm actually paying for this crap.
Come on,
I hope so.
What are you doing?
Oh, hang on. Now.
Oh. Robert, are you there, sir?
Fuck's sake.
Oh, I heard
that. Apologies. Honestly. And now me broadband's just sort of like decided that it wants to play ball again. I'm gonna hang on. Let me see. This could be a little bit freaky because you're gonna get 2 of me. Right, hang on.
Wi-Fi.
Hang on. If I press not that button. If I press that button, then press that button, then press.
And you're on mute again. Well, you're not plugged in with your headset into your laptop. Oh, there he is.
There we go.
And now we're getting feedback.
No, I've got rid of it. Don't worry.
Oh, there you go. Okay. As Peter says, testes, 1, 2.
Unbelievable. Scott, I have got Sky broadband. That's the problem. Apologies, Scott. I'm sure your
Cowboy.
delicate ear rolls have never heard such profanities. Where did we get to?
Hang on, Scott's a chef. I'm pretty sure he uses those profanities.
I'm fairly sure he's heard plenty worse than that. I've watched Gordon Ramsay.
Exactly.
But where did we get to?
Yeah, like
Duke? I've completely lost my train of thought.
Arthur coming on. Arthur.
Oh yes, that was a little bit of a oh dear. I mean, like I say, it was one of those initially. I thought, okay, I could kind of understand it, but when it was 83 minutes, 3-1, then 90 plus whatever minutes, 3-2, you're like, no, please don't.
Yeah, we didn't show ourselves to be a. Yesterday, see, listen, we can't defend for Toffee. We're missing 3 key defenders, and we still decide to try and sit back and defend, and it's not working. It doesn't work for us. It never has done.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that sitting back and defending with, Zuma, Crest, and Oggy would be as bad as what I saw yesterday. I don't think it would. I think we'd be able to probably hold out a little bit more, but we just capitulated yesterday, Rob, in my opinion. Yeah. We tried to come out and defend in the second half, and we all know we can't. We know we can't defend. Not when we're 3-0 up. If we're playing in a game where we're playing against a better side, we defend better. Do you know what I mean? But when we're 3-0 up and we're trying to defend the lead, we defend differently. We sit too deep and invite them further and further forward, which absolutely forces us right up.
What were your thoughts on Lanzini's performance? I know he scored a fantastic goal. I thought that the control that he displayed in that goal that he took, the penalty you mentioned earlier, but I mean that goal from open play was something to behold. But I mean, are we starting to see? Do you think
that was the touch of a god?
Yeah. Do you think that we're starting to get the Lanzini of old? Are we starting to get that player back?
I'll tell you what. Let me see if I can find a comment that was, I think, written yesterday in my voice chat. I'm not
just
sure.
On that, just on this comment from Gaza. I don't know if anybody's seen it. I think it's on Hammers News, but there's a story that apparently we might have a deal for a striker tied up by Wednesday. This is not me. This is on. I'm fairly sure it was Hammers News. I saw it before we hit go live, and it was saying that Arthur Cabral could be very much or very soon a West Ham player.
Who? Sorry,
Arthur Cabral.
I take that all day long. I think he's a cracking player.
Only thing that worries me is you remember what happened to the last player we bought from the Swiss League?
Yeah. Right. My mate Neil wrote a comment or sent a voice note into our boys chat yesterday.
Yep.
Saying that it's amazing how Lanzini has taken since. Yeah, I don't know if you've been able to hang on.
It is amazing how it's taken Lanzini since 2018. 3 years since he did his cruciate, is out for a year, so it's taken 2 years at least to learn how to run again. Do you remember last season when he was so slow? He was playing as like a number 4. He was playing next to like Rice or Suchek whenever one of them weren't available, and he was literally slower than Noble. It's taken like 2 years for him to get his confidence back to start running properly again.
And I think that answers your question.
Do you think it was a confidence thing, or it was more psychological than it was physical?
Yeah, it's definitely psychological. Listen, he was worried about, a bit like we are with Antonio. When we watch Antonio comes off the bench and he sprints, from the middle of the pitch to a corner into the box, and we're all sitting there, going, please don't sprint, because please, the hamstring, stop, no, and we panic. And I think Manu was the same. Manu was in the same sort of mindset, that he was worried that, let's be honest, he's managed to come back from that injury, and it's really good to see him coming back from that injury now.
Yeah.
But the fact that, it must have been in the back of his mind, Rob, for, like you say, 18 months to 2 years, that if he does something to that knee again, that's a career ender.
Yep.
You don't necessarily come back from two serious, ACL injuries. So yeah, I believe it was probably a little bit of a psychological thing. That he didn't want. There's concern if he does open up and let go, that he's going to end up without a career. You know what I mean? So I think that answers your question. I think we're seeing Lanzini back to his best. I really, really think that Lanzini's going to kick on from here and kind of get back to where he was before that injury with the Argentina squad. And listen, he was good. He was one of the best. When the fact that Messi was gutted and Messi actually came out and said that he was so looking forward to playing with Lanzini in the Argentinian squad after just training with him a few times, because he said, for Messi to come out and say that you're a special talent, must feel amazing for Manu, but it just shows to us just how good Lanzini, how in high regard he's held, just how good he actually is.
Was he your player of the match yesterday?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, listen, just for that second touch before the volley, for me, was outstanding. I know there was the build up to the goal, but for me, that the second touch from Lanzini was probably one of the best in the game. And then to top that off with a finish, what a hit, son. I mean, seriously. And he takes a good penalty, as Peter says there. From what I've seen from the other players in our lineup, when people were arguing over who was going to take our penalties, the best one I've seen.
Yeah, I think he's got the mantle of penalty taker if Mark Noble's not on the pitch, which I think is fairly safe to say is probably going to be most of the rest of this season.
More often than not.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's any argument now. Is it going to be Antonio? Is it going to be Rice? If Lingard comes in, is it going to be Lingard? Hey, it's Lanzini at the minute. If he's on the pitch, for me, you give it to him until such time comes as he maybe takes one or two in succession where it goes a little bit pear-shaped, and then you might want to rethink it. But for me, he's got that mantle at this precise moment in time. He's answered that question.
Penalty he's scored, is it?
No.
He's taken penalties for us before, hasn't he?
Well, he got the one at Chelsea against Chelsea, didn't he? In the league. Yeah. I'm not sure if I can't remember too many other times he's been in a situation where because obviously up to that point it's been Mark Noble that's had that particular mantle. Yeah. So, but up to obviously now that Mark Noble's on the home straight and he doesn't really play that much, certainly as a starter anymore. It's like we've obviously had that little problem of, we've tried it with Declan Rice, we've tried it with Lingard last season, we tried it with Antonio, and it's sort of been a little bit of a mixed bag of results. And Lanzini really seems to have grabbed that particular mantle, if you will, of I am the guy that when there's a penalty given, I am taking up, no ifs, no buts.
Yeah. So, and that's what we need.
Yeah, I mean he's got the balls, and but I mean, what do you think about this from Neil? He's sort of making the point that he came back too soon. Do you think that was because he makes the point there in AFL an ACL injury, it's a 12-month rehab, and he came back after 8 months.
Yeah, I mean, this just depends on how serious the injury is, doesn't it? I mean, if it's serious enough to require an operation, then yeah, maybe that might be the point, is that he came back too soon. Maybe that, we don't know the situation. Maybe he went Moyes and the rest of them, listen, I'm ready, I want to come back now. Page, good evening. So, everyone's talking about the penalty. I mean, the referee was going up behind it. Arrogancy, his arm moved towards the ball is absolutely beyond me.
Well, I even saw it in real time, Duke, and I went, do you know what? That looks like a pen. Just straight away when it happened.
I thought pen, and so did Lanzini and Bowen, I believe, on the pitch. The referee. So how did what's his name? Milosevic or Milosevic or something. That's his name.
Milivojevic.
He was on Milivojevic, yeah, close. Slobodan Milosevic. It was, it was a shocking decision by the referee that he didn't give the penalty time.
But then they've got the safety net of VAR, haven't they? Because
but listen, you never used to have safety nets. The only reason that we need a safety net now is because the officiating has got so bad. Back when you didn't have VAR, the officiating wasn't so bad. But officiating now is so piss poor that we have to have a video referee.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, I was there when Liverpool scored a goal that was, I think it was James Milner, was so far offside. I think he was in the Westfield car park when the ball was played to him. So I mean, they do happen.
We're always going to get, but then they even themselves out of course of the season.
Don't know about a season. I would say maybe several seasons, but I don't know about a season, because I think you can have a bad season. You know how it works. You're down the bottom of the table. You don't get any luck. You're up the top. You get plenty of it. So I'm not too sure it evens itself out over a season. Maybe over 5 seasons, but an individual season, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe.
But I did think, I mean, it took a little bit of a while. I mean, it seemed fairly clear to me. I'm pretty sure you're probably going to agree with this, that it was fairly clear from the outset that was a handball. It was a penalty, and it did seem to take a little bit of time before the right decision was reached. But the right decision was reached, and that is fundamentally what VAR that is there for. That if the referee can't see it because it happened too quick, he was stood at a poor angle, players were in the way, and he couldn't make the judgment call right there and then and be certain of it. That's where VAR comes into its own. That's why it's there.
Yeah, I mean, it was awful to the point that you didn't use that. I don't understand why we had a situation that needed to go with VAR. It was so blatantly obvious.
Maybe. We've obviously got next game coming up in the Cup, haven't we? And it'll be interesting to see what team David Moyes puts out there. Do you anticipate he's going to put out a team very similar to what he's put out in the Europa League, in the League Cup up to this point, or do you think he might go a bit stronger? Or
no, I think he's going to go strong. I think he realises we're out of that. We haven't got a Europa League game now until March. So I think he's going to go with a strong side. I really do.
Yeah, and then of course following on from that, as was mentioned earlier in the chat, when you look at the games sort of that follow that, we've got Leeds again in the league, which follows the game against Norwich. And then we go up to Old Trafford for Manchester United. So we've got the next 3 games are at home, 2 in the league, 1 in the cup. And I'm looking at them and thinking, to be honest with you, all 3 of them are quite winnable before we make the trip to Old Trafford.
Listen, as someone put in the chat, it's 9 points for me. We've got to go out and get 9 points before we go on Trafford. I don't think there's any other thing that we can do about it. We have to go out and get those 9 points because I really don't fancy going back to Old Trafford, not taking, even anything more than, 7. We need those maximum points. They're all winnable, as Andy said.
Yeah. Well, Peter seems to think it will be a B team, but he reckons that Leeds will put out their under 18s. And that's true. I mean, sort of like it may well be that we maybe don't have to go as strong as maybe we think we might, because it might be that Leeds, because let's not kid ourselves, Leeds are not exactly secure as a Premier League team for next season. So it might be that Bielsa looks at it and thinks, do you know what? There are bigger fish to fry here.
Yeah, possibly, but I don't. It's the FA Cup. I think that every club wants to win it. Whether you've got you can be in non-league and you still want to win it. So the fact that you're in the Premier League and I still think Leeds might put out from side. I think they're going to want to go as far in it as they can and even possibly win it.
Yeah. Well, we come to the Nuggets. Let's get these out the way. So West Ham manager David Moyes has won all 6 of his away league matches against Crystal Palace as a manager, defeating a different coach on each occasion, those being Alan Smith, Ian Dowie, Tony Pulis, Sam Allardyce, Roy Hodgson, and Patrick Vieira now is added to that list. That's not bad.
Yeah, but on the flip side to that, mate, I mean, they're not the most tactically astute managers, are they?
Now, there's 2 England managers in there.
But yeah, again, if I tell you what, you say England managers, I'll just let you know if you need access to a Sheikh or a Shah or whatever he bloody was, and then want to go on, just let me know.
Listen, Big Sam has 100% win ratio as England manager.
He also is the only one caught trying to fucking offer a bribe or take a bribe. So, yeah, okay.
You may very well say that. I, of course, could not possibly comment as usual. Simon, hope you're well, mate. It was a cracking game at Stamford Bridge, I've got to say. That was, I thought, 2-0 down. I thought your boys were in all sorts of trouble, but I think they showed great character to obviously come back from a 2-goal deficit to get a point. Although, is it a 10-point gap between Chelsea and City? Is it something like that?
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they've got a far superior goal difference. So effectively, it's an 11-point gap. I know there's still just under half a season to play, but that's a big old gap.
Just to reply to Sharky, no, that's not the old Arsenal player, if I remember rightly.
No,
he was not. A bald fellow, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. Yeah. I think he was actually Steve Coppell's number 2 before Coppell
he was.
Had it on his toes, and then he took over for a spell. But no, it's not that Alan Smith. It's not the ex Arsenal player. It's a different Alan Smith. Same name, different person. But there you go. Stephen, hope you're well in the chat. Say again?
I'm going to disagree with Gaza. I saw the game. Mane doesn't take his eyes off the ball for me. So I listen. I've seen them given, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I have seen them given, but I personally think you're spending more time looking at the ball. Does he raise an elbow? Is he looking to jump? It's one
You've
of
seen
those
them given, haven't you?
Oh yeah, listen, I've seen them given. If I was on the receiving end of that as a red card, I'd be pissed off,
Yeah.
But all in all, it didn't affect the outcome of the game. I think the 2-2 draw was a fair result. So,
on that one, Pete, I hope he does. I think, to be honest, I thought he was one of the better players against Zagreb, and he's not been seen since. So I think that's I think he at least give him a run out from the bench, if nothing else. But anyway, nugget number 2 is that we have won 5 of our last 8 away league matches against Crystal Palace. We've drawn 2 and lost 1. In our top flight history, we have only lost 3 times in 16 visits to Palace, with 8 wins and 5 draws. Not bad at all.
Just take
that's
that
pretty
all
good.
days off.
Normally, we're the other side of that particular equation, so we got to take it when it comes our way. £5 million bid for Lukaku coming from David Moyes, apparently.
I'll be honest with you. It'd stop him from scoring against us.
There is that. He'd probably score an own goal in a really important game, though. Anyway, last nugget. Crystal Palace have lost a home league match on New Year's Day for the first time in their history. With this, their 14th such match, previously winning 7, drawing 6 and losing none. So we've bucked a bit of a trend there.
That stings. You can't be happy if you're Crystal Palace there. Having a run like that, you can't be happy.
That would be good, Epic. That would be good. I'd mind you, it'd probably be that all of a sudden Yarmolenko finds his scoring form. But there you go. That let me just I'll whiz in on that. There we are. And this was taken before the Chelsea game, but that result doesn't affect us any. So there we are in fifth, Duke. 20 matches played, 10 wins, 4 draws, 6 defeats, plus 10 goal difference, 34 points. Arsenal are a point ahead of us. Tottenham are a point behind us, although they do have 2 games in hand. But it's still all up for grabs, that 4th place, isn't it?
Yeah, listen, we're not in the title race anymore. You know, I said,
yeah.
And listen, it was nice to dream. But we're still in the top 4 race. We're still in the race for Champions League. So, you know, I'd like to see Moyes take it seriously and stop this bullshit of defending if you're excellent goals in front, or sitting back and letting the other team play because it doesn't work in our favour.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up, old chap?
No, mate. No, the pub's getting a little bit busier again. We've got some people playing darts in front of me, so we're going to get back to work and see what goes on. And, yeah. It's what it is.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to like, comment on and share the stream. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for alerts on new content. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for all of your support that you've given us over the last, 11 and a bit months now, isn't it? More or less?
Not
nearly 11 months. Just short.
Just over 11 months.
And please don't forget to support this campaign. You know the score, guys, with Isla. She's very, very poorly. And obviously, you know, there was a turn for the worst that was taken. But be that as it may, we as a channel, as individuals, and I don't think it's a stretch to say the West Ham community, YouTube, everywhere else, wants to try and help this family out. So guys, please, you'll find this in the description below, YouTube and Facebook. You can copy and paste it, put it onto your social media platforms, tell your friends and family what it's all about. If you're in a position where you've got a few bob in your pocket that you can put into this particular fighting fund, you've got the Just Giving link there. There's no donation that's too small. Give generously. And as always, guys, we thank you very much indeed for supporting this particular campaign. Just going to sort of have a quick go through of the comments, just in case there's anything we need to just touch on before we bugger off. But it just seems to be everybody telling us that they've enjoyed the stream, and we appreciate that greatly. So, Duke, and you're on the side, aren't you? Are you getting a little bit concerned by that?
Sorry, what was that? Go again?
You're on the wrong side. Have you got? It's sort of like, are you okay with this? You're not getting a little bit sort of twitchy.
I am. Yeah, but that's the point. I've ignored it.
What are we, Duke?
And now you pull me up. I'm kind of. We are exactly what Lawrence says we are. We are fucking massive.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to finish with my usual, guys. Come on, you irons.